Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It's wet, it's windy, it's rainy, it's horrible. Bugsy's up there, she's still having fun. I'm not, but we move. Hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love. Please do me a favor, smash the like button for me on the video. If you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button as well. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic. And it's Wednesday, and I wanted to get my thoughts off my chest around Ange ball, the tactics. It's been going around on Twitter, rival fans showing that picture of 7 men on the halfway line, using the halfway line as an offside trap. Is it madness? Is it naive? Is it brave? Is it something else? I've had loads of time to think about it. When I first came out of the game, and I was on fan cams, doing fan cams, etc., my general take was that it was tactically naive, tactical suicide, and a little bit silly. And I still think that all of those arguments are reasonable. Here's what I'm going to say. It's immediately split the fan base. Like, the fan base can't go 5 minutes without finding a reason to have a pop at each other. You've got one section that are looking at this through traditional tactics viewpoints, and they're saying the things that I've just said. You know, it's unnecessarily risk. The general rule of thumb when you go down to 9 men is you park the bus and you hope you can get a draw, especially if you're in the situation where you have a point on the board, so to speak, where it's 1-1. It might be different if it's 3-0 down or if you're in a losing situation, but if you're in a position where you have points that you might sacrifice, then tuck yourself in. The other side of the conversation is all those people that are now asking Ange to do something that Conte would have done are the same people that wanted Conte out for playing negative tactics. Your flip-flops, your hypocrites. And again, it's a reasonable point, if not unnecessarily aggressive, and I do think there's a point to it, that the players that were on the pitch, you know, Dyer, Højbjerg, Emerson Royal, are the same players that couldn't defend Leeds playing the low block under Conte, and that style of football was the catalyst for most people to want Conte out. And I was one of them, and I completely agree. 100% agree with that. The third argument is the reason why Klopp, who doesn't usually play park the bus football but did against Tottenham, is because they had Konate and Van Dijk and Matip and, you know, Gravenberch, all these players that could come in and were big, strong men that could come in and tactically fill out the goal, make it more difficult. Tottenham didn't have that. And again, it's another, to a degree, reasonable point. But what I would say is I don't think it would matter if we had all those players. If we had 9 players on the pitch and we had the ability to bring on a whole new set of subs and we had the best defenders in the world on the bench, I still don't think Ange would have done it. He said after the game, when asked why he parked the high line for the last 50 minutes, 40 minutes, he said, "It's who we are, mate. It's just who we are, and it's who we will be until the day I'm no longer here." If we go down to 5 men, notwithstanding the fact that you'd already have to forfeit the game, but the point he was making was, even if we go down to 5 men, we will still have a go. So I don't think it was a tactical decision from Ange. I don't think he would have made a different decision had he had better players. It was a philosophical one. It was one of, this is what we do. This is what Ange ball is. For good or bad, you take the bitter with the better. You take the rough with the smooth. And I've had a long time to think about it, of whether I think tactically it was the right thing to do or not. And whilst I still sit there and see and remember the fact that on another day, if Chelsea had taken their chances, we could have finished that game 8-1. But on another day, if Tottenham had taken their chances, we could have ended up 2-2 or possibly even 3-2 if you consider the fact that we were an inch away from Eric Dyer's goal counting. We were a yard away from Sonny picking the corner for his chance. Bentancur's chance late on. There was plenty of chances in that game, and of course that arose from the fact that tactically Ange tried to compress the game into about 15 metres either side of the halfway line. The challenge for me is, just to finish off the tactical point, is that it took Chelsea 10 minutes to figure out what was going on. The standard, typical play when you go down to 9 men, even 10 men, is to park the bus. And Ange didn't do it. And Chelsea were probably a little bit kind of bewildered by the system. But eventually they figured it out. And they started to penetrate and push balls through. And some of them were offside, but a lot of them weren't. And if it wasn't for some absolute masterclass in goalkeeping from Vicario, then it could have been a cricket score. And I think therein lies the challenge for me as a fan. If we're seeing fans going at each other, I'd love to know if you are someone who leans into it was tactically stupid or naive bucket, would you feel the same had Tottenham ended up getting a point out of it? Or would you be saying, no, it was a tactical brilliance? And those people that are defending Ange will saying, how can you challenge Ange after everything he's done so far? And this is all you wanted anyway. Would you be saying the same thing had Nico Jackson scored 6 goals rather than 3, and he could have done on a different day if he was a better finisher? We'll never know. I think there's enough wiggle room in the narrative that played out that day for both sides to have some ammunition in the debate. You know, ultimately, we created enough chances to get something out of the game. The standing ovation that the crowd gave them showed that Tottenham fans appreciate the effort, appreciate the have-a-go approach, and it was this close away from working. But for those on the other side, you could also see with your own 2 eyes that it was this close from being embarrassing. And I think neither scenarios obviously played out. But what I would say, guys, is that it doesn't really matter. You either have to get on board with Ange or not. He said he won't change. We'll have a go. And what worries me a little bit about that process is, as I said at the start, when you have something to protect versus having a go anyway because you're chasing, they're 2 different scenarios. If Tottenham were 2-0 up in that game, and we could have been, if Sonny's goal had counted, then Chelsea may not have got the penalty. There wouldn't have been all the other things that had happened. But let's play a kind of hypothetical. If we are 2-0 up after 20 minutes, and then Romero gets sent off and Udogie gets sent off, but we're still 2-0 up and still with 9 men, would you guys who are tolerant of the exercise that happened on Monday still be tolerant of it if we were doing that with 3 points in the hand, or in the bush, so to speak, but they weren't in the hand yet? Would you be okay seeing 7 men on the halfway line pushing for a third when you don't need to? Would Ange have changed and gone back to park the bus? I'm not sure. I don't think he would. And I think this is the level of crazy we're working with, and it's a good crazy. I love the crazy, but it is crazy. To me, as I say, I think you have to take the bitter with the better when it comes to Ange Postecoglou. I think you have to accept that these are the types of things that come with personalities that have yielded what they have out of the players thus far. If you buy in, if you as a fan have bought into Ange Ball and have appreciated what we've seen on the pitch and appreciated the behaviour of the players, then never say die. the find a way to get it done, the holding on against Luton, the figuring it out against Liverpool, the not just coming back into the game, but snatching it late against Sheffield United, going to Arsenal and taking over the place, beating Manchester United. If you appreciate the effort of the players, then that is in no small part because they have bought into Ange. They love him. You can't stop hearing commentary from the players about how much they bought into his philosophy, his ethos. And I think if you're going to buy into a player or a manager's philosophy, then he's the sort of manager who isn't going to change at the first sign of adversity. If he was the sort of guy who at the first sign of adversity tore up all of his narrative, all of the energy that he's been building and said, forget all that, park the bus, it's too important to get a point out of Chelsea, then it undermines everything that he's been trying to create. But if he was the sort of person to do that, then he wouldn't be the sort of person that would have found the buy-in that he has already from the fans and the players. And so for me, whilst I, as a novice, just an opinionated armchair Tottenham fan, think that tactically it was naive, think that it will probably cost us in similar situations. This scenario won't work out more often than it does, or will work out badly more often than it works out successfully. But you hope that those things happen only few and far between anyway, and that you'll take the bitter with the better, because ultimately the benefits of Ange Ball, the benefits of what we're seeing, the benefits of the players playing and the fight and the drive and the desire, all of that stuff will yield far more fruit in the majority of situations, the majority of cases, even if in the one-off, two-off scenarios in a season when we find ourselves in bleak situations, down to 9 men, bad injuries that are happening at the time, even if the decisions in those moments could be more logically clever, smarter, even if he won't do them because that's not who he is, then I'm okay with it. So tactically, I still think it was silly. But philosophically, I'm on board. Let me know how you think about it, guys. And we'll see you on the next one. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.